nonprofit recreational league of women and men who want you to come and check out the fast-paced, hard-hitting game of roller derby. The Conroe Cutthroats practice at Rainbow Roller Rink on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can find our game schedule and more information on our website, www.conroerollerderby.com.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? LoneStar Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on this edition of the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler. I'm your host. I'm also a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Well, I'm glad you've taken time to join us on today's program. I think we've got some interesting material, and I know we've got a really exciting, interesting guest talking about a very, very important topic. But before we go there, I want to do a quick introduction of what's going on. We are broadcasted, you may know, from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio in downtown Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County. And what's important about that? Well, we're a community radio station here. We're a nonprofit, so if you see fit to donate some money, that's deeply appreciated. Have a wide variety of programming that's all brought to you by local individuals that want to get a message out, and the messages vary from Veterans Affairs to what's going on in the city, on events that are happening all over the place. Today we're talking about, of course, business. But I encourage you to go to this website for Lone Star Community Radio. It's real simple. It's irlonestar.com. That's irlonestar.com. And just take a couple minutes, learn more about the station, learn what you can do to help the station continue to broadcast all that's going on in our local community here in Conroe and Montgomery County. Secondly, I want to encourage you to join the community that we have right here on the Weekly Business Hour. It's real simple. Just drop me an email, Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Drop me an email, connect with us. We have emails that come in. People put out their personal challenges. They've got a situation in their business. They need some advice or want some advice. Those kind of are not necessarily the same thing. But when it happens, you've got somebody with an ear that's going to listen and respond. So drop me an email, Rick at irlonestar.com. Okay, first off today, quick thought. Now it's a no-go on recession. You know, I've learned more about recessions in the last 6 months than I learned in the first 70 years of my life. It is pretty amazing. All the government experts, all the economists, they have called it, yes, a recession, no, a recession, soft recession, sliding recession, rolling recession. And we've talked about it a little bit on the show about those kind of things. But now the consensus seems to be this past week that there won't be any recession. Of course, don't forget, we don't know what the measurement really is of what a recession is. All I know is that when I talk to business people and people out there in the community, Montgomery County and beyond, in the greater Houston area, in other places in our country, I hear people talk about difficulties. Inflation is the main boogeyman right now. Inflation is there. They say it's dropping, but I guarantee you the average business and individual is feeling the inflationary pressure when they go to buy things, when they go to contract for services. What does this all mean to you as a business owner? Same thing we've talked about week after week whenever we touch on recession, is you need to keep an eye out and pay attention to your numbers. This is one of the reasons it's so important that you produce regular financial statements on your business. operating statements, profit and loss in particular, so you know how you're actually performing. I appreciate gut instinct. It's served me well all my career, but the numbers will tell the complete story and give you the kind of information you need to make those decisions that have short and long-term impacts on your business. So keep an eye out, keep an ear to the ground, but make sure you get your numbers and the numbers are accurate. Well, the Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses now throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their businesses, and to be part of conversations that can make, hopefully, a real difference in their business. I want to remind you, if you're not a regular listener, that the show is broadcast where you can watch as well as listen. Simply go to YouTube or Facebook, type in the Weekly Business Hour, go to that page, click on it, and you can watch as well as listen to us here on the Weekly Business Hour. And also, again, please, if you've got a question, if you've got a suggestion for the show, if you've got a concern for your specific business, drop me that email, rick@irlonestar.com. Okay, now we're to what we're here primarily to do, and that is to talk to people in the business community, not just here in Conroe, Montgomery County, but beyond. And today we're blessed to have an expert with us. It's a topic we haven't visited in quite a while, and it's a very important topic because it's crunch time, if you will, in the business insurance area. So I'm proud to welcome Kyle Yeary. He's a commercial specialist with First Insurance Specialists. We're going to have an open discussion on the current market for business insurance, as well as what you need to be doing to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Dick. Thank you, Rick, for having me. Really honored.
Well, I'm glad I got that Irish name out. Yeary.
Yes, sir.
You know, every day we learn something, whether we like it or not. I've got my thought for the day already on the scoreboard. But thank you, seriously, for being here. Give our audience a little bit of background of your business or business background and what brought you to kind of where you are today.
Okay, well, thank you, and thanks again for having me. I've ran across you in different chamber events, and I'm really just honored to be here, Rick. So, yeah, I started this way back when I was about 5 years old in my mom's office, I guess I'd say. So, yeah, I've been around insurance for a while, swore I'd never get into it and have anything to do with it, because when we were kids, one of my business partners and I would go down to an office and take staples out of had a three-part policy then, and had carbon in there. We'd take staples out and they'd reuse, do whiteouts. I don't know what we were doing. We were always playing with papers. My mom went to work for an insurance company in the late 60s, early 70s, and so I've always been around it. Dad bought into it in 75 and started commercial over in East Texas. And so, yeah, I've been around it. He was sold homes and also draftsman, and we had a building company. My grandfather had a Yeary building over in East Texas, and really proud of that. He was 1957. I have in my office. He was on the board of the chamber, 1957. So that's why I'm such a chamber man in network like that. But try to make a difference in the world as he did. But he had building company, hardware store, and he figured out he started building on the lakes over there as they popped up, Sam Rayburn and all that. And there was a need. Instead of just funding somebody else, he actually started building, become a general contractor. I love that part of the business. So I went to work for my dad did insurance. I'm like, all these papers, I'm like, I will never do that. And I went to work for the contracting side. And then went off to college and Kilgore, San Marcos, and got out. I've had 4 jobs in my life: uniform rental sales, Coca-Cola for 15 years, home inspections. Did that for a while, and then it was enough technology for me to open a plant and cold turkey, just work out of the house and build this business. And that's what I did. Dad's had some great relationships with carriers. And I've built this over here on our own, and 2 accounts handed to me, and it was really after Harvey, church accounts when they had bad claims. So those are the accounts that I got handed. Everything else, we've knocked on doors and just organic, and I've loved it. I love the talking to folks. You know, as I know, back in the day, I always thought, I was going to tell you, I got into insurance because I hear they play golf on Fridays and fish on Mondays. But I've learned that was only health and life guys. These PNC guys like me, we work all the time. So, no, my another guy that was kind of a mentor was a State Farm guy in Jasper, Joe Knight. He was my Sunday school teacher, and he's still working today, but he did fish every Friday. But he was a good guy, and my dad's just done well with it and helped a lot of folks, and that's why I've been doing it around here for about 10 years.
You know, it really does help when you start a business to have had that kind of mentorship, is in the case of your dad and someone else, to learn the ropes, so to speak. And then you are better prepared than a lot of people to start a new business.
I think so.
Well, there's no doubt about that. So you originally are from Jasper,
Yes,
in
sir.
East Texas.
Yes, sir.
And you decided to come to the Conroe, Montgomery County area, Montgomery.
Right.
What brought you over here?
Well, we were Coca-Cola 15 years, and so single in a couple of locations, Corpus, San Antonio, and then the Valley for about 5 years. Wife and I came together, had a 4-year-old. I always joke he and I grew up together, and so we just wanted something a little closer to home, a little closer to Dad. So Houston, Austin, we were looking. Came over, run the sales manager for Channel View Coca-Cola. Did that for about 5 years. The job went away. It was always changing. A little bit different now. We had three kids, and Mama didn't want to go to Dallas, and that was kind of one of the things we were looking at, or going somewhere else. And so I got into home inspections for a while, as I said. I had that familiar. I'd had a lot of background there. Kind of worked myself out of a job. I knew then I was very detailed to a fault, doing that almost, and that was it. I was good at talking to folks at the time. I kind of honed in on that, along with all the sales. But insurance, we took a little course, and insurance came up. Dad never asked me once to get involved in it. He was kind of forced to go back home when he got a degree at U of H, and kind of grandfather had a lot of business going on, needed him. He didn't want that from me. He wanted me to do my own thing. And he jokes, even at the convention last week, he let somebody else train me. So, I went off and got a lot of experience. And once the technology was there, the iPads and all that, and the EMS systems, I could do it anywhere. Started out of the house in Kingwood, came to Montgomery. Wife found the school. Honest thing. We found the school. We knew a guy up here, a good guy, had Southern Star, and we were looking at purchasing his book. But when we got up here, and it was in Conroe, and it worked out. It was just kind of self-planted in Montgomery. There wasn't a big independent agency in Montgomery, and that was a CAA, Combined Agents of America, and have all the carriers that we have. And it's just been a great fit. It's been a blessing. Prayed a lot about it, and there's where we landed.
Well, it's an interesting story. You obviously have traveled a long road to get where you are, but you obviously also bring a ton of experience with you in business in general. Sure. And I love the inspection, being an inspector after you've been involved in building something, now you're inspecting it. I mean, you are absolutely armed for battle when you do that.
Well, and that's what I meant to say is a home inspection thing, too. I'm a risk manager by fault. I'll go out and see things that maybe some others don't, because I did that for 5 years. And, we got to be careful. I can tell people, I don't want to run off and say, I don't want the account. But sometimes, if something's too much going on, we're going to have more claims than we ever thought. It's just some people like the risk management part. And but yeah, I got about 2 weeks ago, a guy from New York came down. We have a county out in Robertson County. We spent 4 days risk managing every single account, not every fire department, because sometimes they have 2 or 3 stations. So yeah, that's risk management right there. But I've learned a ton from some of these insurance carriers, part of that. So I do a lot of risk management myself for these larger commercial accounts. So yes, sir.
Yeah, risk management to me is what I learned about commercial insurance, being in business, is really the cornerstone of good insurance, is the risk management and what you are actually doing and what you're doing wrong or not completely right, and that creates a claim. And claims is a dirty word from my perspective on the side of the insured. So
yes, sir.
No doubt about that.
A good point. And documentation of what you do. I mean, these I do alarm contractors and a lot of contractors. If they're not documenting, if you notice, one thing we talk about a lot in the industry, UPS or I don't know if Prime, but FedEx, they'll take a picture sometimes when they leave something. And that is, so many small businesses they just say, oh, well, it's done. You got to document what you're doing. You got to document that you covered how to run these kind of equipment. If you install alarms or if you restoration contractors do a lot of that, you better document that you put things back the way they go. And so we try to help with things like that as well. So
Yeah, the common sense things that sometimes are missing.
Yes, sir.
I get you. It makes a lot of sense to me. Well, commercial insurance, I happen to know. I work with a group of local business people in a CEO roundtable, which is connected to the Conroe Chamber.
Okay.
And I mentor that group, and we have an insurance broker. And boy, I have learned over the last couple of years of mentoring that group, learned so much of the background of commercial insurance and the things that go on. And the indication that she has brought to the table is it's a very, very difficult in many areas. Commercial insurance is getting expensive. Insuring certain kinds of buildings. I mean, she always gives us an update on what's going on. So tell us what's going on in the commercial insurance market in general.
Well, you've said it. I mean, work comp is pretty level. We're about the only state that's right to work state that you're not forced to have work comp. Work comp rates are competitive, very much more than other states, and so we're very competitive on work comp. Very competitive in a lower premium, I guess I should say, on general liability. What's going up, to your point, is auto and property. And the folks that have big property, especially in one area, a lot of rooftop exposure is what the carriers look at. The reinsurers are giving the carriers, say a Travelers, a run for their money this year. The reinsurers have taken a price increase. Probably should have been doing it little by little, instead of all doing it this year. So that's one of our problems this year with property. We're shopping like crazy. We've got 20-something folks, about 20 folks in the service center office, 3 up here just to work on new business. We're a sales office here and do it right. We shop to make sure they've got the best coverage with the lowest premiums. With some of these coverages I'll get into in a little bit that some people don't think they need. I hate that Liberty Mutual commercial. Now, I mean, Liberty, buy what I'll use Liberty, but you don't know what you need until a claim comes. So that is the state of the union is reinsurers are making it pretty difficult. We're hoping we get through this year without some big losses, big hurricanes, because insurance, hate to say it, it's sometimes a socialism thing. It's spread the wealth. You didn't have a claim, Richard. Maybe I didn't have a claim. But the guy down the hall, he had a claim, so we're all paying for it. And so we're hoping we get through this year without many losses, so maybe it'll stable out a little bit better next year. But there's companies getting in the market, and they'll do something that we have to know where the appetites. We need to know who likes a radio show host. Not every carrier does. Who likes the LROs down there that have self-storage, wedding venues? Not all do. So we kind of know that because that's what we specialize in, and so we have good rapport with underwriters, so we do best we can. And so but things are going up, as you said.
Well, and you know it as well or better than I do that things go up, they come down.
That's right.
They're always in motion, back and forth. And to me, in my experience, that's where having the right insurance agent that can negotiate, that's aware, that has the information to find the best policy at the best rate. And a lot of people miss that, I think, when they're buying insurance, whether it be personal or business, they miss that.
Right.
I was raised in an environment in a family business, and my father taught me that you needed 4 key advisors, and one of them was your insurance agent. So they literally were an advisor to him, not just selling him something, but several times a year he would meet with them one-on-one and talk about what was going on, because we always were expanding into different kinds of businesses, and so he'd go through the costs. So, yeah, a good agent should be looked at, in my opinion, my experience, as an advisor, in addition to providing a product.
Sure. Anybody can answer the phone and take a call and place them somewhere, but it's the ongoing, the Let's talk about what audit might come up. Let's talk about what new coverage that I'm seeing in the market, EPLI, discrimination claims. They're popping up. Didn't have those when I started. Didn't really have much of that, cyber and things like that. So, yeah, my dad, you made a comment, and we have a lot in common because we're both, family business here. And I would just love working with my dad. He's Willie Urey, he's a principal, and he always said when I started, it's an ever-moving target. It's a moving target. I'm like, what do you mean? It's a moving target. I see now, brother. I see. It's a moving target.
Every morning when you come in and unlock the door and flip the lights on, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, all the carriers. Yeah, one of them will want to write this one year, and next year the actuaries, we better get off that. So, moving target.
It's a real challenge. Well, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we've gotten to the point we need to take a commercial break. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk to Mr. Urey about actual policies that when you start a business and when you grow your business, the things that you need to look for in buying your commercial insurance. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Does volunteering at a nonprofit horse sanctuary sound wonderful? Or are you a veteran or a veteran spouse and think trying a peer group session through a local Horses and Heroes equine program might be worth trying? Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary, located in Grand Central Park by appointment only, is home to a growing number of rescued and donated horses. Visit our website at henryshomehorsesanctuary.org or check out our Facebook at Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary for more information.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we're having, I think, a great conversation with an expert today. And Mr. Urey is an expert in commercial insurance. So, Kyle, again, thank you for joining us. And now we're going to kind of dive into some of the nitty-gritty. And I know some of our listeners are going to go, oh, why, well, you need to have a basic understanding of your insurance. And I've seen it too often in my consulting business. I go into a business, and one of the things that's on the checklist, let's look at your insurance. Let's make sure that you've got what you need. And too many times, over 50% of the time, the folks don't have the insurance because they did exactly, Kyle, what you said earlier. They picked up the phone, called somebody, and somebody placed the coverage, really taking no time to understand the business.
Right.
Well, I'm going to start a business. What basic insurance do I typically need to do it right to get started?
Well, what we like to do, thank you for that question. What we like to do is find out what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. What might you do today? What might you do tomorrow? What have you done in the past? What are some of your biggest jobs? What were they? Were they residential? Were they commercial if you were a contractor? What do you do any designing? If you're a pool company, do you design the pools or does somebody else do it? Or there's a lot of things we need to capture. And a lot of people are just like, well, I just need insurance. Now, a lot of times we'll ask for the insurance requirements. If they're working for a company, they'll have insurance requirements. Usually it's always general liability on there. The standard is a $1 million occurrence, $2 million aggregate. That means $1 million per claim, $2 million in the course of the year. However, there's a $2 million on that as for operations and products. Like if you had a claim around that, a lot of claims around products and operations or ongoing operations. Sometimes they'll need things like per project if it's a contractor, $1 million per project, not just $1 million. All that stuff it's good to have that kind of thing. They need professional liability in a lot of cases. It's not general liability, but the normal thing is general liability, $1 million, $2 million. It's $1 million for bodily injury, $1 million for property damage, only for third-party claims. It's third-party allegations or claims or suits that come in. Then there's a 5,000. Some companies exclude the 5,000 to 10,000. Liberty Mutual put a 15,000 in some different things. It's nice to have. Guess what? The attorney goes after 15,000. It's a non-fault slip and fall. No fault slip and fall. It's money. The 5,000 per person would be to help get them their doctor's bills covered and all that before a suit comes up. And so those are normal things. You got to look at what drives it is usually sales, gross sales, not net sales, but gross sales. Usually what drives it, GL premium or payroll. A lot of times you can do a payroll by, say, W-2 or 1099 folks that work for that company, and then what sub-costs might be. And so it's so a lot of different things in there. But yes, general liability. If I owned a business and always have, and I saw a lot of work comp claims in Coca-Cola, let me tell you, because I worked with guys that would go out and investigate when these torn disc and things happen. It's a lot of lifting at jobs like that, and injuries are real. And work comp is I always tell people, you have the checkbook when you have work comp for an employee, because general liability is not work comp. It does not do anything for your employee. General liability, third party exposures, work comp, job connected, work related, employee employer related injuries, period. That's what work comp does. It helps with medical bills. If something drastic, a hand comes off, something happens, it could pay for life if somebody couldn't work again. So work comp is pretty inexpensive, necessary. Any kind of liability where you could get sued, I always think you have that first. Property insurance, if you don't have a bank breathing down your neck, I'm not saying don't insure your property, but you know how much it might cost today to replace. So if you only had money for liability insurance, that's what I would have. So
it makes a lot of sense, and I have had personal experience with claims in all those areas. We even at one point had a company that we had no workers' comp because the price got up in the $20, $25 range. It was a light manufacturing, but we were dealing with some welding. We had exposures, but we did where we went in with and you set up the safety programs, and I'm proud to say we went 22 months with no accidents.
That's great.
50 plus men and women working in 2 shifts.
That's great.
And anytime we ever had a problem, it was in the second shift anyway. It's those people working late at night that.
All right.
But no, we saved a boatload of money, and we bought a medical policy. So if they had little.
Yeah, back in the day, they had the occupational, and Aflac will come in and have some different pieces in there. So it's nice to have something. Work comp has gotten it's per rate per 100 or a rate per 1,000. I think rate per 100 is what it's calculated, and it's always worth looking at. But you're right, some of the higher exposures are going to be a little bit more oil and gas field work, things like that. But the risk are. I've had a claim, I can't say names, but it was a small, I saw a death claim not long ago for a small landscaper. And work comp, they don't deal, they investigate. And it was a guy ran out in the road or something, I don't even know. I just make sure they're talking right when it happens. Make sure an adjuster is assigned from the carrier, and I'll follow up later. I don't want everybody telling us things. We do have a claims specialist. I love Charlie Keene in our office. She will help turn in claims. When something important like that, we get them connected real quick. And so, but I saw that, and I think the work comp carrier paid for the funeral. It was a death. Didn't have to, had drugs in the system. But my small business owner was protected against more suits from family and all that.
Right.
They could go after the work comp carrier if they didn't like what was going on. But that is why you need work comp. I can't stress it enough because so many miscommunications out there. So many people think they have work comp when they don't, when they have a GL policy. But ongoing property, property is a good policy. That's where you can get your business income, your all the different things, property and transit, inland marine. Sometimes it's inland marine if it's a lot of welding machines traveling. Sometimes a little BOP, a business owner package, will just throw in property and transit, property off premise, business income up to 12 months, usually a waiting period, about a 3-day waiting period. Have to explain that every day. But, there's builder's risk. That's if you're building or renovating a property. I mean, there's a lot of different property, but if you can have the property, sometimes you might own the building. Like right now, you just have property BPP, business personal property of your furniture and stock or goods. If it were a convenience store or landscape, a nursery, you've got stock and goods. Sometimes plants are excluded, sometimes they're not. I mean, there's a lot of things to worry about and explain. We try to explain what you have. Can't always make 100% sure that a claim will be covered, but you can sure go with past experience of where you've seen good claims handling and try to explain some things that might be a gray area, like wind-driven rain or something like that.
Right.
So there's a lot of variables in there, and a claim comes down to how it's styled and filed with an attorney, and we that, and so. But yeah, we just try to do the best we can with it. There's so many different lines of coverage, from, like I say, the cyber that would help with ransomware. But our cyber defense is get your IT guys to lock you down and help from the rogue employees. And that's the best line of defense. Do something about it there, like the risk management. But things happen, right? So there's a little cyber insurance. Sometimes it's in the business package. Sometimes you have to do it standalone, depending on what kind of account insured you have. D&O, if you've got a board, you got to have D&O insurance for the board, have some protection, and it also would come into play for volunteers working on behalf of a board. So there's just a lot of things we just kind of assess what they're doing and try to get the coverages they need. Sometimes a certificate request will come over, and it's just GL, but they're an accountant. Okay, you got a little GL exposure. You got P&L exposure. You got errors and admissions. If you make a mistake, I have that coverage I have to have. So we try to educate. So.
Well, and I hope folks are picking up on what you're saying, directly or indirectly, is insurance, and particularly business insurance. I mean, personal insurance, yes, the homeowner's policy, that kind. There is a lot to it. It's like a giant crossword, or not a crossword, but a giant puzzle. And there are 1,000 or 10,000 pieces. And a lot of folks that I know have come across in my career don't understand that. Right. It's not a rubber stamp. It's not one size fits all in no way. I was serving on a board at a church, our church that we went to, and it is a fairly good size church. And one of the hurricanes, Harvey probably, if I remember right, and they actually had income protection. Mm-hmm. And when that came up, I said, my gosh, because I wasn't working with the insurance side, but I said, gosh, for a church to have that, I said that would, and it was smart because they got X number of dollars to help cover some of the expenses.
Policies, yeah, it's needed.
But you think about it, the average person would say, why would a church, right? But it works.
Yeah.
I mean, it really works, and it was needed. I mean, in a sense that they were shut down for 5 days or whatever.
Yeah, they missed some Sundays. But, one of the best, I can't say names again, but a large contractor, we had hired non-owned on it because we just add an auto. I didn't get to that, but on our auto, we try to always have hired non-owned. And what that is, if an employee is driving their personal vehicle on company time, or maybe even after company time, in this one, it was a gray area. He was going home from a job, but ran over somebody, and it was a fatality involved. And thank goodness we had hired non-owned on that policy because he had defense. Whether they pay everything or not, sometimes the defense is just huge to have the coverage on there. You let the attorneys sort it out. Let the adjusters, attorneys, and all that. But just having the right coverages. I'm a proponent. I try to load it up as much as I can with all the coverages that might could come into play, and then kind of let people look at it and make some decisions. But and then educate that way. And again, I'll tell you, a property is expensive right now. I'm not afraid to tell people we want clients for life. We're going to be here. We show up. We want the claim to go well. If you can't do property right now, maybe that's something you kind of do some self-insurance on. Put $10,000 in the bank every year, or $1,000 a month for something. I'm not a proponent of not insuring your property, but you know what it is to replace it in some regards. So there's things like that. We'll also be very frank and try to help educate as well. I do a lot of car wash insurance, and a lot of these small ones now, they could be self-insured on the property if they don't have a bank requirements.
You know, real quickly, one of the single worst workers' comp claim I ever came across personally, which it wasn't in the business, but it was a neighbor, and they had hired a roofing company, and they were putting on a hot tar flat roof.
Yes, sir.
And one of the young employees fell into the tar.
Oh, wow. Mm.
Okay? And the roofer didn't have workers' comp.
Yeah.
Okay? So they came after the homeowner. And it was a battle royal. Okay? He had family that he didn't even know he had because he passed away. They all came from north, south, east, west, and with their hands out. And I know it upset that family for 2 or 3 years to be embroiled. Of course, their homeowners stepped in to some extent, but it doesn't make sense not to have insurance, or if you hire people in this case, make sure that they have insurance. I mean, it was a total freak accident.
Yeah. No, it is.
It happens.
It does. Things happen, and we've seen a claim or two, right? But that's, a lot of residential, they don't ask a HVAC company, that roofer, for certificates of insurance, where a commercial this building would make sure that everybody's working has insurance.
Right.
Or had a certificate of insurance. One thing we've also really stringent on our restoration contractors, which do roofing and all that, all their vendors need a 30-day notice of cancellation. So they get tipped off if somebody doesn't pay for insurance that is working for them. And so those are kind of things. But you're right, man. On residential, half the time I don't ask for certificates of insurance if somebody's coming out. I know some that I insure that we have come out and work on the AC, but the mulch guy probably doesn't have it.
And see, a good insurance agent, in my opinion, will counsel you in your business and say, look, this is one of many things on a checklist, but when you hire an outside vendor or whatever, connect things, even have services done, you just need to make sure you have it. Well, as we kind of wind down our time, I want to give you some time to talk to our listeners and talk about, okay, it's the annual hurricane season, if you will, and there's some key things that everyone out there that owns a business should be doing regarding their insurance at this point, if you would share your perspective on that.
Well, we had a conference a while back with the Conroe Chamber, I believe, and we had an account of ours. It's Janae is Drytex. They came in and talked about hurricane preparedness, and Janae did a great job at highlighting all that. And I send it out sometimes, but it's the obvious things. If your hurricane's coming, try to put your car in a garage. That makes sense. Pick up your pulley furniture. Pick up your chairs and bird feeders and all that kind of stuff that's a flying projectile. So that's the normal things. Make sure you got gasoline. Make sure you got batteries, all that kind of stuff. Internet goes down. We saw in Harvey and beyond. But generator. If you got a self-generator, make sure it's got clean gas in it, and it will start when you need it at midnight one night, And I think we're all guilty of letting things sit around, right? Pressure washer, you can use it when you need it. Always maintain it. So maintaining things like that. The main thing for insurance, though, Rick, is have your documents. I publish, Charlie in my office publishes claims, all the claims, the companies we use, and their claims numbers, so they have it. And a good, if you're really preparing, get your insurance documents. You might call your agent and say, "Do I have business income for wind and hail?" I tell you, on these Tier 1 coastal properties, a lot of times you'll have a fire policy, and then you'll have a wind and hail policy. And if you don't have business income on the wind and hail policy, you don't have business income when a hurricane comes. So those are good questions to kind of ask your agent. Do I have business income in case my business is down? A tornado, hurricane gets it. Storm surge. A lot of people misnomers about storm surge and water, rising water. That's flood. That is not wind and hail policy. So do you have a flood policy if you live on the coast? It's getting expensive now. on the barrier reef, as they call it. Flood is getting really expensive. But, you know, you got to know how high the water can rise before. I've got a friend that's got a place in Crystal, and he's wondering, well, do I need flood? I do probably need it. But it's expensive. And, you know, is the water really going to get up that high? So it's a lot of self-calculations, right? But, yeah, you just need to make sure you have your documents, your insurance policies and things like that, or at least your policy number and a claims number. If something happens, you call them, you notify, you can call your agent, they turn it in, or you call the agent, the carrier direct. Even if it's a surplus lines like a chin cap or Burns and Wilcox, they'll get that turned in for you. Liberty, Nationwide, American Hallmark, United Fire, all the Utica that we use a lot, the Nationwide, they have direct claims. And when bad weather, they're usually staffing that. And then another thing that people don't remember and they forget about is, what are your valuables? Do you have a video of it? That's the best thing, a video of your valuables, and just a valuation, a close valuation of what it might be worth. Because so many times something comes, whatever, fire, hurricane, flood, and they're like, I don't know how much it would cost. So those things are important, to have that kind of stuff. And then after a hurricane, of course, don't touch wires that are downed wires. Call somebody about that, and the common sense after that. But help your neighbor.
Well, the thing too, and the point you make that's just so important is have your documents, your insurance documents, and other documents too. Have them in a place that if you have to evacuate or you do need them, you know exactly where they are, and you can get them and pull them. So many times I've seen claims, just the limited experience I have, people are delayed because they don't have their information.
Right.
And you want to get on that list,
right? You get on that
Especially
list
if it's a major situation, you want to be at the top of the list, not down at the bottom, and you're sitting there, weeks later waiting for somebody to come out.
You know as well as I do, when the ones came in last 2 years ago, 2 in Louisiana up the Sabine River, I think it was, in a matter of a week, and all these hurricanes come in at once. These adjusters will go and be sent here and here, and so you're right. The sooner you get in and the sooner you kind of track it. That's what we come in. A good agency will come in and help you track claims too, and that's what Miss Charlie does for us. She helps track these claims to I tell her all the time, just love her. I went to a conference this last week, and it was Brian Bilchek, a coach for the Ravens, and one thing he kind of oddball way of doing it, but it's a breakfast scenario: the bacon, the bacon and eggs. Okay, bacon and eggs. The pig's all in, and chicken has a little bit to say there. They give some eggs, but you want an office full of pigs like we have. And I called Charlie Friday when I came back. I said, Charlie, you're a real pig for us, because she's been around forever. And she's like, what? And I explained it. But we have some true pigs that are all in good times and bad times. When it gets hard like this, you don't just punch the clock.
Right.
You might have to stay a little bit late like Miss Charlie does. And Rachel, and we've got an office full of some real bacon, I should say. But and most agencies, if they're in it for the long haul, they're in it for service. But these things are. We try to always publish that the new claims. We hit them before they have to ask a lot of times when hurricanes come. And here's your claims numbers, or But yeah, it's people need to reach out.
Yeah. Again, I encourage everybody in their business to consider their insurance agent an advisor, just like the lawyer, the accountant, and so on and so forth. You need to, not just somebody selling you something, but ask them to help advise you of where to go, what you need, how much you need, so on and so forth. And if they can't do that, you're probably talking to the wrong person. Well, Kyle, I can't thank you enough, Kyle, to taking time today to visit with us. We've had a good long run through commercial insurance. If people have questions or want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they could. My office number, Celinda, that used to work for the chamber, she's a gift to us. She used to work for the Montgomery Chamber, and she's with me now. She's usually there, 936-449-8055, and she can find me. But Celinda, Angie, my wife, that would quote at midnight and has. I've got some real bacon there that are all in. And then myself, I even have a text that, people can reach. At our office, we have a text too. That's kind of the new technology. We've got a lot of older folks, some, but we've got the technology with a text group that we've got a lot of people that like to text. And so we have that in our system. But yeah, Kyle.Yeary, Kyle, Kyle, Yeary at firstinsurance.net. Great email. My text is 281-460-4853. And I'm out and about a lot. I mean, I've got about 4 or 5 niche things that I do for many states. We're licensed in about 30 states right now. But I'm a generalist here. We are a generalist here. And thankfully, I've got a great team that when we get somebody in place, there's a phone call away if they need a certificate that day, invoicing issues, claims handling, things like that. We don't write the checkbook, but we make sure things are getting tracked, and we make sure our insureds are talking to our carriers, and there's no big gap there. And that's one thing I know our customers will say. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience. I know that I'm enlightened in a couple areas, and always got to be learning. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our final break of the day. And when I come back, I'm going to deliver you my One Best Consult tip of the week. And it's entitled, How Do You Select the Right Business to Start? Lots of discussion over the years, lots of books written about how to start a new business and how to decide this and that. But I boiled it down to 3 or 4 points, and I want to make those to you. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
An estimated 1 in 10 births will result in a neonatal intensive care stay, also known as the NICU. Overnight, a family can find themselves and their newborn baby in a critical situation. The Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the final segment of our program today. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. We just had a wonderful conversation with Kyle Yeary, commercial insurance, an area that is a lot more important than some people think. It's a very, very important part of your business, and you need to find a good agent. And I know that Kyle and his organization, if you listen to his history, his background, it's generational. He seems to really know commercial insurance. So I encourage you to reach out to him if you can't find the experience that you need in your own agent. So please, Kyle Yeary and First Insurance. I promised you at the break that I would talk a little bit about selecting the right business. We don't have a lot of time left, and I don't want to push through this too quickly, particularly if you or a friend of yours, a family member, are looking to start a business, because I think there's certain areas that are often overlooked. They're talked about, and there's an approach, kind of up front and in the black and white, but there's some things behind the scene that I think can help you, help the person you know, the person who's starting a business make a better decision or the best decision for them, their families, etc. So I want to have the opportunity to go through those points. Before I do this, though, I want to remind you that a pod video cast of today's program will be available on Wednesday of this week. You'll be able to find it out there on Facebook, YouTube under the Weekly Business Hour, also here at the station, Lone Star Community Radio, at irlonestar.com. Click on shows, morning, you see the Weekly Business Hour, and it'll be posted there as well. But let me take a couple minutes that we have left and kind of outline what I would like to talk about, and I'll pick it up next week and kind of go through a little bit more detail. When you're going to start a business, there is a lot of work to do if you want to do it right. It's not a Hollywood movie where someone's laying in bed or sitting on a beach or driving down the street and they have this wonderful idea pop into their head, and it's to start the newest Facebook company or the newest tech company in some area or whatever it might be. Or I'm working for someone, say I'm a plumber or electrician, and I say, man, I could do this better. I know how to organize, I treat the customers better, et cetera. I'm going to go start it. That's the beginning, but that is only a very, very small part of it. There is a lot of work to do if, and I emphasize if, obviously, if you're going to do it right. And I'd like to help people. That's what I try to do. Have lots of people talk to me over the years about starting businesses. And I'm always willing to give up to an hour to anybody, no charge, because I love to hear the new ideas or the old ideas that they have a different approach to. I love to talk about starting business. But there's a number of components that need to be touched. First one is budget, okay, the money. Where's the money coming from? How much money do I need? You know, the average business takes at least 2 or 3 years to show a profit. Now, there are exceptions, and on both sides of that number. Some take a little longer. Some will show pretty quickly, and it all depends on the type of business you're going into. But the budget and sitting down and running some numbers, whether it's a pencil and a pad and a little hand calculator, or you have a financial program and you put in data and you can run scenarios and so on and so forth. But you've got to start with a realistic number, because I've seen in many, many cases people have that number, but they don't have $1 more, and something happens and then bam, they're in trouble big time. Make sure you have the available time and resources. A lot of people start businesses on the side. It's their side gig, right? You got to make sure you have the time to do that. Make sure you've got the time, the 2 or 3 years. How are you going to pay the bills? And the resources that you need, that you have contacts, information. You can connect with good people who will do business with you and in turn make it where you can do business with others. Scalability. How big do you want to grow this business? A lot of folks are satisfied just with a small business. Very important, and something I'll talk about in detail next week. And then finally, the other area that I feel that's so important is the market. You're going to have to be realistic and determine how big the market is, okay? It's not, hey, when they started Facebook, they were going to do it just for colleges. But then they found out, didn't know it when they started, that they could spread it out to the general public and draw business in that way. But that fell into their lap. That doesn't happen very often. So you've got to spend some time, find the resources, find people to look at the market. Even if it's going to be a mom and pop business, the worst thing in the world, you open the doors and you stand there behind the counter and the phone doesn't ring and people don't come across the threshold. You've got to determine your market. I want to thank you, though, for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you were able to get something out of the discussion that Kyle Yeary brought to us. A lot of good information. I'd appreciate it if you get an opportunity to share with someone you know that's in business a link to today's program. Invite them to join us. We'll be back next week right here on Monday at 11 a.m. We've got a very exciting guest join us in a very specific area. So please take the time to do that. And as I try to tell people every week, the most important thing you can do is pay attention to your own business. So wishing you a wonderful week, and I look forward to talking to you again